We've had 6 games of footy on the weekend. There's little storylines in amongst all of them. We'll just do a quick recap. Geelong on Friday night with the big Jeremy Cameron show, who just got it started. The Bulldogs slow out the blocks and paid the price. West Coast continue to battle. Much improved performance against the Adelaide Crows. North Melbourne's first quarter against the Suns was mildly competitive. After that, it was all one-way traffic, so their nightmare continues. Sydney Swans were superb against Melbourne, having given up the first 5 goals to 1 in the first quarter and came over the top and ran away with a great victory. One of the really good games yesterday, Hawthorn and Collingwood at the MCG. The rain came. There was just no backward steps taken, and the Pies again for the second week in a row hung on a thriller. And then the last game was over at Optus Stadium, and the Fremantle Dockers have just now claimed the scalps of anyone who's thought to be any good in this competition, so that by extension they're very much in this up to their neck, Bucks. Where do you want to start?
They are, Gaz. Well, I'm learning this media cap. I had my first one. I had, where can the Pies get to this year? But that's not really a statement. So the Pies will play finals this year. There's no doubt. And Craig McRae, pretty happy with what he's seeing. Yeah, they'll play finals this year.
On the back of what?
Off the back of their form, off the back of the type of football that they're playing. I reckon outside of that loss to West Coast, which is nearly unfathomable when you look back on it, their form's been relatively consistent. Their midfield, Chris Pendlebury, Adams, they have given up the Pendlebury at halfback experiment. So Chris Pendlebury, Adams, DeGoey going through there, and Lipinski's gone through also, and their wings are really settled inside Bottom and Dacos. They've been really consistent through the midfield, and with those names and experience, there consistently. They've been really good. The back 6 has been really consistent. When you get Howe and Moore in the same side and Maynard playing consistently together, Quain has come through even better. Noble and Murphy has been one that they've found. Really so he's been great.
Can they kick enough goals?
Well, that's where their young players are stepping up. So Ginnivan, Henry, McCreary, who's been in and out but puts a lot of pressure on. Elliott missed on the weekend. Yep. Grundy missed. But Myercheck and Hoskin Elliott are the consistent players there. And then I haven't mentioned Nick Dacos yet, who played his best game, I reckon, for the year on the weekend. I think, and in the absence of Grundy, Cameron is stepping up, and we're speaking to him at 8 o'clock. But I think, look, the best Collingwood were going to be able to put on the park if they got a good run with injury, if their experienced players were there consistently for them. There's a skeleton there to build around, and the young players are coming through. So I think they'll play finals this year. Number 2, the Suns. They have answered the challenge so far this year. They had a couple of games up at the NT, and I think they can make that something that they will continue to mine over the next couple of years. But Stewie Dew was pretty happy with their performance up there. Their next 5 games, and they're not an on-Broadway side, the Gold Coast Suns, but they've answered the challenge around this mid-season and getting wins in the mid-season, and they've played some really good. The win against Sydney and the SCG set them up, and they've kicked on since then. They play Adelaide at home, Collingwood at home, Richmond at home in the next 5 weeks, and the other teams they've got are Port and Essendon. Could they go on a 7-win streak? If they win those 5, there's obviously still 5 games there, but they've got 5 winnable games in front of them. If they went to 11-6, geez, they're on Broadway then, aren't they?
Do you know the one team in the competition can ill afford to look that far ahead is the Gold Coast Suns.
And when you look, I absolutely...
They have got no right, and this is with great respect because I'm also a fan of what they're doing.
Yep.
Given their history, they have got no right to look any, and I'm sure they're not, any further ahead than Adelaide this week.
You should be giving me a clip then. Because
I am. Yeah, I hate. I don't like
you can only ever deal
projection,
with the
moment. They've got 4 of the bottom 6 sides, and then 6 weeks later we go, they lost 4 of them. So let's look, for Adelaide especially, no further than Adelaide. For Gold Coast, no further than Adelaide.
Well, that's good because that's the first time in my very short media career that I've got a clip from someone about being too media. Number 3.
Well, don't stand by, you'll get another one.
Thank you. Number 3, Swans' defence was brilliant, and I just loved, and this is less of a football story, more of a person or a people story, and I just loved the brotherly, combination. Paddy and Tom, both of them started their careers as tall forwards, as marking tall forwards. it's infinitely easier to play behind the ball as a marking player because you are generally going to be the outnumbered, the extra.
Yep.
When you're marking forward, you're going to be the outnumbered player, so you're going to be a -1. But they both are playing to their strengths and they're bringing their best traits to the table, and a great performance by the Swans.
Swans were magnificent. They really were, and they got back to their hard, tough Swans brand, which they maybe have got away from time to time. We'll talk what it means for Melbourne after you have your say. But and I speak to Paddy Cleary a lot, and the understanding between those two brothers was great. You know who he played on for most of that? I was at the game watching. He played on Cozzy Pickett for most of the game, from what I could see.
And that's been consistent. They will play him on a player who he is just going to let go.
Yeah,
He's going to let him go.
I'm
and
looking
then
at
play
it,
his game.
and I'm going, right, what will Melbourne do to try and exploit this matchup? Cozzy over the back with Paddy, God love Paddy, is a no contest. But the pressure was such that they never got exposed.
Well, and you're not going to, if you defend the way that you want to defend, then that becomes a real weapon for you rather than being exposed, as you said. All right, number 4, the game last night, Freo v Brisbane, had a lot of things that were thrown up, but the one for me was Andrew Brayshaw. Now, I've seen him a couple of times. He had 6 touches in the first quarter, but when Fremantle needed someone to step up, when they were looking for leadership, when they were looking for consistency, in amongst Sarong, Brodie, and a couple of others, this kid, and he's still a kid, was the one that really got the Dockers going. When you're a coach and you've got a player who just drives himself, this is probably in the 5 or 10% above of guys that anyone could coach them and they're still going to get the best out of them. Then you've got blokes, 15 to 20% right at the bottom that you're not going to get anything out of. You get paid for the middle. But when you're a coach and you've got those high-end performers.
Driven.
And this bloke, I just wonder, why is he such a good player? Why has he been leading the Coaches Association voting?
I'm asking you.
He just works so hard. If there's 2 players at the contest, he's the 3rd. If there's 4, he's the 5th. If there's 6, he's the 7th. He is the outnumbered player, and he does the basics extremely well.
So he said to me, he's probably not competition best in any area other than trying hard and working hard.
Well, and that is,
and I'd take that every time.
Well, we've just been talking about Rafa Nadal in the French Open. He willed himself to victory. This guy, as a young player, he just works to the ball. He makes the game look simple. 39 touches, 6 tackles, hard, smart, clean, great footballer. So I loved his performance.
Great. And then I've introduced this now. The 5th buck stops is a question that I can ask of you, and I've got plenty more throughout the morning as well. Nathan Fyfe plays in the waffle. The Fremantle side are the talk of the competition right now, and rightfully so. They've beaten all the contenders. 2 weeks in a row, they've bowled over Melbourne. They've bowled over the Brisbane Lions, so they should be talked about. Justin Longmuir says believe. And you can see it. There's something developing really special from a Fremantle point of view. Nathan Fyfe plays his own way and has done, and won a Brownlow medal and got it and stood up at the dais and said thank you to the others that cover for me. It's how lucky am I that I can go and do whatever I want to do, and I've got coverage around the ground, which is great for him. But that wasn't a team. That was in a team that wasn't contending, like seriously contending. They are seriously contending. I know it's only halfway through the year right now. He is available. He's played 1 game in the waffle. You're the coach of Fremantle. What do you do with Nathan Fyfe? That's my question for you.
He plays stoppage and he goes forward because he doesn't make them a better transition side. And I know that he made a comment pre-season around the forward experiment is over for me.
That's right.
He doesn't make them better as a transition side, and they have cut their teeth on being the best transition side, the side that attacks well from defence and defends well from attack. Their balance is as good as any. They've knocked over Melbourne. They've knocked over Brisbane, the 2 best sides in the competition, we believe, and in the last couple of weeks. So you use an asset to his premium for the team's benefit, not for his benefit.
So it's stoppage and then works his way forward. Why can other teams have that sort of player play in a role in a manner that allows them to still be involved around the ground stoppage?
Yeah, so the players we're looking at are Dustin Martin and Jordan De Goey, and there's others.
Petrarca
potentially, but Petrarca plays as a legitimate midfielder. He doesn't just go forward after stoppage.
Yeah, but he gets good coverage, and
He does.
He gets good. The Neil Bullen coverage is there for him.
But Martin's probably the one. And Martin doesn't have Fife's aerial capacity,
Yep.
but Martin basically plays as a front half player.
Yep.
He's more a forward than a midfielder, and he's revolutionised the way that, and Richmond have revolutionised the way that you can use a player with those traits. We talk about Jordan De Goey in the same breath. Not great transition players, not players that you rely on for your team defence.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got them in your front half, you're happy. Nathan Fyfe is that player. He doesn't spread well out of stoppage. So you do need cover from a Darcy Tucker, from a Frederick, from a Schultz, from a Switkowski when that happens. So he doesn't make them better running around in the midfield in transition play.
Right.
He makes them better when he's at stoppage,
Yep.
and he makes them better when he gets his big frame in front of the ball and improves their aerial.
Beautiful. The buck stops here. He says this morning, after 12 games of footy, or 11, depending on where you're at, Collingwood will play finals this year. The Suns he wanted them to look 6 weeks ahead, but no, cannot look no further than Adelaide. The Swans' defence, the McCartan, the love for the McCartan brothers, Andrew Brayshaw is the hardest worker, and what the role for Nathan Fyfe going forward. You can have your thoughts on those.